Way back in 1854, Charles Dickens published a novel that was, honestly, a radical attack on an England obsessed with industrial progress. He saw a society that he believed was in real danger of sacrificing its own soul. That novel? It was Hard Times. Okay, let's dive right in. These are literally the first words of the book, and they come from our main ideologue, Thomas Gradgrind. And let me tell you, this isn't just an introduction. It's a declaration of war. A war on imagination, on feelings, on anything you can't stick in a spreadsheet. This really sets up the central conflict, the world of cold, hard facts versus, well, everything else that makes us human. So, what exactly was this philosophy that Dickens was taking on so fiercely? Let's get into the mindset, the intellectual foundation of this entire world. We're talking about a super rigid, purely quantitative way of seeing everything and everyone. At the core of it all was this idea of utilitarianism. Now, its goal was to achieve the greatest good for the greatest number. And, on the surface, that sounds pretty reasonable, right? But in practice, it meant that everything, happiness, morality, you name it, could just be boiled down to a simple math problem. In this world, taste, as Gradgrind calls it, is just another word for fact. There's zero room for wonder, only for what is immediately and provably useful. And Dickens just brilliantly shows how absurd this all is. Picture this scene in Gradgrind's schoolroom. The teacher asks a simple question: what is a horse? Now, Sissy Jupe, who grew up in a circus and actually loves horses, is totally speechless. She knows them, she feels them, but she can't just spit out some dry definition. But Bitzer, the star pupil, oh, he's ready. He recites this perfect, cold, biological summary. He's got the facts, for sure, but Sissy has the understanding. It's the perfect showcase of what gets lost when we value raw data over lived experience. Gradgrind's school is basically this philosophy put into action. It's a factory for churning out minds. And honestly, it kind of echoes some of our modern debates over standardized testing versus creative thinking, doesn't it? In this school, kids are just empty containers. Imagination is a weed you've got to pull. Individuality? That's just inefficient. So students are just numbers. And the number one golden rule of the whole place? Never wonder. Because curiosity, you see, is the ultimate enemy of a world that thinks it has all the answers. Okay, so let's move on from the philosophy and see what happens when you build an entire city based on this principle. Welcome to Coketown, the physical embodiment of the Gradgrind worldview. Yeah, Dickens does not hold back one bit. His description of Coketown is basically a vision of hell on earth. I mean, the brick is stained this unnatural red and black from all the soot, and the smoke itself turns into these monstrous, endless serpents poisoning the air. This is not a portrait of progress. It's a portrait of the brutal corruption of the natural world. Now, what's so wild is how every single thing in Coketown is just a monument to function over form. All the streets look the same. The buildings are totally indistinguishable. The jail could be the hospital could be the jail. And why? Because things like character and beauty have no measurable practical use. Even the people become just cogs in the machine. Their whole lives run not by the sun or the seasons, but by the relentless scream of the factory bells. And this right here is one of Dickens's most haunting images. He takes something so natural and majestic, an elephant, and chains it to the rhythm of a machine. He turns it into the symbol of mechanical insanity. It just perfectly captures the soul-crushing repetition of industrial life, a world that's traded the vibrant, organic pulse of life for a state of, well, melancholy madness. So we've seen the philosophy, and we've seen the city it built. But what's the actual human cost? Let's meet the people who are trapped inside this grand and pretty terrible experiment. Right at the center of all this wreckage, we find Louisa and Stephen. Louisa is Gradgrind's own daughter. She's supposed to be the showcase for his system. But she's not some rational machine. She's an emotional void. Her spirit has been systematically starved, leaving her literally unable to name her own feelings. So when a loveless marriage is proposed, she just agrees based on statistical probabilities, because that's the only language she's ever been taught. And then you've got Stephen Blackpool, a good, honest factory worker, or a hand, as they're called, reduced to just a single function. He's trapped by these inflexible rules that have zero compassion for his miserable life, and he ends up an outcast from both his bosses and his fellow workers. This is such a powerful and recurring image in the book. Louisa is always just staring into the fire. So why the fire? Well, think about it. A fire is wild, it's untamable, it's full of changing shapes and colors. It represents everything her education tried to stamp out. Passion, imagination, all those parts of the human spirit that you just can't measure or calculate. It's the flicker of a soul that the world of facts could never quite put out. And this wasn't just some fantasy. Dickens grounded his story in the really harsh realities of his day. He actually went to the town of Preston during a massive weavers' strike. He saw firsthand the stubborn positions of the factory owners and the suffering of the workers. It was this struggle between capital and labor that feels, wow, incredibly modern. All of that real-world tension went directly into the fictional story of Coketown and the tragic muddle of Stephen Blackpool. But Dickens doesn't just show us the disease, he actually offers a cure. And it's not a political or an economic one. It's a solution that's rooted deep in the human spirit, in a world he calls fancy. This slide just captures the book's central showdown perfectly. On one side, you have Gradgrind's rigid school of fact, and on the other, you have Sleary's traveling circus of fancy. The circus is everything Coketown is not. It's chaotic, it's colorful, it's messy, it's all about community, and it celebrates things that have no practical use, things like artistry and kindness and pure joy. For Dickens, this is the essential humanizing force you need to balance out a world obsessed with productivity. And the real heart of the circus is Sissy Jupe. She fails every single test in Gradgrind school, but she is the moral and emotional anchor of the entire novel. She represents everything the system tries to crush: empathy, compassion, and a kind of unwavering love. Sissy is the living, breathing proof that a wisdom of the heart isn't just a nice little extra, it's absolutely essential for survival. And right here, in the simple, lisping words of the circus owner, Mr. Sleary, is the novel's entire argument. It's such a profound truth, isn't it? Human beings are not machines. We can't be constantly working or constantly calculating. We need amusement, we need stories, we need art. We just weren't made for a world of only facts. All right, so after everything is said and done, what's the final result of Gradgrind's huge social and educational experiment? What does the final calculation look like? Well, the results are catastrophic. The system doesn't create perfect, rational people. It creates broken ones. Louisa completely collapses, finally crying out against the emotional desert of her life. Her brother, Tom, who was raised without any kind of moral or empathetic compass, becomes a selfish thief who frames an innocent man just to save his own skin. So the bottom line is, the whole system is a total, undeniable failure. And here it is, the moment of truth. Faced with the absolute wreckage of his children's lives, Thomas Gradgrind is shattered. He is forced to confront the colossal mistake that was his entire life's philosophy. In this really powerful, humbling confession, he finally admits that maybe the head, the world of facts and logic, might not be enough all by itself. He finally opens the door to the wisdom of the heart. So, the ultimate takeaway from Dickens's novel is this incredibly powerful warning. A world that puts calculation above compassion, profit above people, and data above our shared humanity isn't just unsustainable, it's self-destructive. It will, inevitably, collapse under the weight of its own soullessness. And that leaves us with a question that feels even more urgent today than it was back in 1854. In our world, a world driven by big data, optimized by algorithms, and completely obsessed with efficiency, what space do we leave for fancy? When AI can generate art and the gig economy demands constant work, what is the real, tangible value of useless things like wonder, empathy, and just a story told for its own sake? Dickens gave us his answer, now we have to figure out ours.